A morning tea, a moment for yourself, and a heartfelt story. That's what I invite you to share today. We're about to embark on a journey where parenting isn't just theory but a daily test in every word and glance between parent and child. If you're a mom, dad, or simply someone who's been a kid, this tale will make you reflect. Today, I'm sharing a personal story about trust, fairness, and teaching kids to stand up for themselves. Stay until the end, okay? Hey, listener, you're about to dive into a story where a small misunderstanding tests a family's trust and a child's voice. I'm Sarah, 32, a graphic designer living in Boise, Idaho, with my husband, David, 31, a warehouse supervisor, and our son, Leo, 6, a dinosaur-obsessed bundle of curiosity. Our home's a cozy hub of T-Rex models and laughter. But one weekend, a missing bike and a quick judgment turned our haven upside down. Leo's plea for fairness clashed with David's discipline, and I was about to see how deeply trust shapes a family. Let's start where it all unraveled. David and I have been married 8 years, building a life around Leo, our spark. He's a whirlwind away sketching velociraptors, asking why. About everything, his grin lighting up our modest split-level house. I work from home, juggling logos and laundry, while David's long shifts keep us afloat. We're a team, balancing Leo's energy with love and routine. Leo's our pride, a kid who'd rather dig for fossils in the backyard than watch TV, his honesty as clear as his love for Stegosaurus facts. That Saturday, I was at the farmer's market, picking up veggies, leaving David to watch Leo. It was a crisp fall day, perfect for Leo to ride his blue bike in our cul-de-sac, a hand-me-down he adored. David was tinkering in the garage, keeping an eye out. Leo, as usual, zoomed around, helmet wobbling, until he popped inside for a glass of water. He was gone maybe 5 minutes. That's when our neighbor, Mrs. Carol, a chatty retiree, knocked on our door, her grandson Toby, 8, in tow. "David," she said, "Toby saw Leo take his bike. It's gone from our driveway." David stepped outside, scanning the street. Leo's bike, usually propped by the porch, was missing too. His gut sank, assuming the worst. He called Leo, who bounded in, cheeks flushed from riding. "Leo, did you take Toby's bike?" David asked, voice stern. Leo's eyes widened. "No, Dad, my bike's gone too. I just went to get water." His voice was firm, confused. But David, swayed by Carol's certainty and the empty porch, didn't buy it. "Don't lie, Leo. Toby saw you. Where's the bike?" Leo's face crumpled. "I didn't do it. Why don't you believe me?" David's patience snapped. He'd grown up with a strict dad, where lying meant consequences. To him, Leo's denial looked like defiance. "You're grounded," he declared. "No TV, no tablet, until you apologize to Toby and tell the truth." Leo's jaw set, tears welling but stubborn. "I'm not lying. Why are you punishing me when I'm telling the truth?" His voice cracked, a mix of hurt and fury, but David doubled down. "Enough. Go to your room." Leo stomped off, slamming his door, leaving David fuming and Carol nodding, satisfied. When I got home, arms full of kale and carrots, the house felt heavy. David filled me in, his tone clipped. "Leo's lying about stealing Toby's bike. He's grounded until he owns up." I frowned, sensing a rush to judgment. "Did you ask him what happened?" I said. David shrugged. "He claims his bike's gone too, but Carol's grandson saw him. He's just covering." I glanced at Leo's room, door shut, and my heart tugged. Leo wasn't perfect, but lying wasn't his style. Had confessed to sneaking cookies before making up stories. At 6, his world was dinosaurs and honesty, not deceit. I knocked on his door, finding him on his bed, clutching a plastic triceratops. Eyes red. "Mom, I didn't take it," he whispered. "My bike's gone, and Dad won't listen." His voice, small but fierce, hit me hard. I hugged him, promising to sort it out, but doubt crept in. Had Leo slipped? Or was David, stressed and quick to judge, missing the truth? Carol's word, Toby's claim, weighed heavy, but so did Leo's plea. Our home, usually loud with laughter, was now a battleground of trust father against son, and me caught in the middle, questioning who to believe. The bikes were gone, that much was clear, but the truth was murkier. I needed to talk to David, to dig deeper, but his verdict was set, and Leo's defiance was growing. At 32, I'd always trusted our family's bond, but this moment of our kid's bike threatened to crack it, exposing how fragile fairness can be when trust is on trial. Listener, Leo's plea is clashing with David's judgment, and Sarah's caught in a family rift. Is Leo telling the truth, or has David's instinct nailed a lie? Stay with Metha's stories about to unravel a truth that tests love and fairness. Sarah's family was reeling after a misunderstanding tore through their trust. At 32, a graphic designer in Boise, Idaho, Sarah was caught between her husband, David, 31, a warehouse supervisor, and their son, Leo, 6, a dinosaur-loving kid accused of stealing a neighbor's bike. David, swayed by the neighbor's claim and the absence of Leo's bike, grounded him, dismissing Leo's tearful insistence that he was innocent. Sarah sensed Leo's truth but faced David's rigid verdict. Now, a shocking twist would expose the real culprit, but the fallout would deepen the rift, leaving Leo's faith in his father and fairness hanging by a thread. That afternoon, while Sarah was still at the market, Mrs. Carroll returned, her face flushed with embarrassment. "David, I'm so sorry," she said, wringing her hands. "Toby lied. He took Leo's bike because it looked cooler than his. He hid it in our shed, scared he'd get in trouble, and made up the story about Leo. She'd found both bikes, Leo's blue one and Toby stashed behind her lawnmower." David, stunned, nodded as Carol apologized again, promising Toby would face consequences. The truth was clear. Leo hadn't stolen anything. His bike was taken, and he'd been framed. When Sarah got home, arms full of groceries, David met her in the kitchen, recounting Carol's visit. "Toby took the bikes," he said, voice flat. "Leo's bike is back on the porch." Sarah's relief was instant. Her gut had been right. Leo was telling the truth. She expected David to head straight to Leo's room, apology ready, to lift the grounding and mend the hurt. But David leaned against the counter, arms crossed, and said nothing more. "So, you're going to tell him, right?" Sarah asked, setting down the kale. "Tell him he's not in trouble," David shrugged. "He still argued with me, Sarah. He was disrespectful. The punishment stands." Sarah's jaw dropped, her relief turning to disbelief. "Disrespectful, David. He was telling the truth. He said he didn't do it, and you didn't listen. Now you're punishing him for standing up for himself." David's eyes hardened, his tone clipped. He yelled, "Sarah called me unfair. That's not how my son talks to me. He needs to learn respect, truth or not." Sarah's anger flared, her voice rising. "Respect. You're teaching him that telling the truth gets him grounded, that being right doesn't matter if he doesn't bow down. What kind of lesson is that?" The kitchen, usually warm with dinner prep, turned cold with their clash. Sarah saw David's stubbornness, a shadow of his strict upbringing. His dad had ruled with an iron hand, and now David was echoing that rigidity. But Leo wasn't a soldier to command. He was a 6-year-old, hurt and confused. "You're not teaching respect," Sarah pressed. "You're teaching him to shut up, even when he's right. Is that what you want? A kid who lies to avoid a fight?" David bristled. "Don't twist this. He needs discipline, not coddling." The argument stalled, both too raw to budge. Leo, still in his room, felt the weight of it all. Sarah peeked in, finding him on the floor, lining up his dinosaur toys, his face drawn. "Mom, why's Dad mad at me?" "I didn't take the bike," he said, voice small. Sarah knelt, hugging him. "I know, sweetie. It was a mistake. Toby took it, and Mrs. Carroll told us." His eyes lit up, then dimmed. "But Dad still won't let me watch TV. He thinks I'm bad." Her heart broke. Leo's trust in his father, once rock solid, was cracking. At 6, he was learning a brutal lesson. Truth didn't always set you free. Not when the person judging you wouldn't bend. Sarah tried talking to Leo, explaining David wanted him to listen better, but the words felt hollow. Leo's sparkest questions, his bold why, was fading, replaced by a quiet wariness. He stopped asking for his tablet, stopped begging to ride his bike, as if afraid one wrong move would tighten the punishment. Sarah saw his confusion, his growing doubt in the fairness of grown-ups. David's refusal to apologize wasn't just a parenting choice. It was eroding Leo's belief in justice, in the safety of speaking up. The rift wasn't just between father and son. Sarah's trust in David wavered. She'd always admired his strength, his work ethic, but this stubbornness felt like betrayal not of her, but of Leo's heart. Their marriage, built on teamwork, now teetered as she questioned David's values. Could she raise Leo with someone who valued obedience over truth? At 32, she faced a home divided, not by bikes, but by a deeper clash. How to teach a child to navigate a world where even parents could be wrong. Listener, Leo's truth is out, but David's pride is deepening the wound. Can Sarah bridge this gap? Or is trust afraid? Stay with Metha's stories about to face the cost of fairness in a family's love. Sarah's family was fractured after a stolen bike sparked a crisis of trust. At 32, a graphic designer in Boise, Idaho, Sarah stood by her son Leo, 6, who'd been falsely accused of theft by a neighbor's grandson, Toby. Her husband, David, 31, a warehouse supervisor, grounded Leo, dismissing his truthful denials as disrespect. When the truth emerged was the thief, David refused to apologize, insisting Leo's defiance warranted punishment. Sarah's anger at David's rigidity clashed with her fear for Leo's fading trust and fairness. Now, a deeper conversation about parenting would force them to confront their values, with Leo's heart in the balance. Sarah couldn't let David's stance stand. Leo's quiet withdrawal spark dimmed. His questions silenced haunted her. At 32, she knew the stakes. This wasn't just about a bike or a grounding. It was about the kind of man Leo would become. Sarah's own childhood loomed large. Raised in a strict home, she'd been punished for speaking truth if it sounded like talking back. Once, at 10, she'd been grounded for insisting she hadn't broken a vase. Even when her brother later confessed, the injustice burned, teaching her silence over honesty. She'd vowed Leo would never know that fear, that her son would grow up bold, trusted, and heard. That evening, with Leo asleep, Sarah sat David down at their kitchen table, the air heavy but calm. "We need to talk about Leo," she began, voice steady. "I grew up in a house where truth didn't matter if it looked like defiance. I was punished for being right, and it made me afraid to speak. I won't let Leo feel that. He told the truth, David, and you punish him for it. What are we teaching him?" David's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt, his silence a crack in his usual defense. She pressed on, her words raw but clear. "I don't want to raise a boy who's scared to stand up for himself. I want a man who fights for what's right, even if it's against us. If we don't believe him when he's honest, when will he ever feel safe to speak? You're telling him truth, doesn't matter if it's not polite." David shifted, eyes dropping to the table. Sarah saw his struggle. His own father's harsh rules had shaped him, obedience trumping all. But Leo wasn't him, and this wasn't that house. David finally spoke, voice low. I can't have him yelling at me. Sarah, respect matters. If he thinks he can argue, what's next?" Sarah leaned in, unflinching. "Respect goes both ways. He wasn't yelling to be rooted, was fighting for the truth. You didn't listen, and now he thinks his own dad won't believe him. Is that the respect you want?" Her words landed, and David's silence stretched, his defensiveness giving way to doubt. For the first time, he seemed to see the wound he'd caused, not just to Leo, but to their family's core. Sarah softened, offering a bridge. "I know you want him to be strong, David. But strength isn't shutting up, it's speaking up, even when it's hard. We have to show him we'll listen, that his truth matters." David nodded, slow, like he was meeting himself in a mirror. "I didn't think of it like that," he admitted. I didn't want him to be like me, always fighting authority." Sarah reached for his hand. "Then let's teach him to fight the right way for justice, not just to win. The next day, David took a step. He sat Leo down, Sarah nearby, and spoke, voice halting but sincere. Buddy, I messed up. I should have believed you about the bike. You were right, and I'm sorry. Leo's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and relief. So I'm not grounded? He asked, tentative. David smiled, ruffling his hair. Nope, and next time you tell me something, I'll listen better. Okay. Leo nodded, his spark flickering back, though trust would need time to rebuild. Sarah and David weren't fully aligned. David still leaned toward discipline, Sarah toward dialogue, their parenting styles a work in progress. But the fight had opened a door a bigger conversation about raising Leo to value truth over blind obedience, to defend himself without fear. They started small, family meetings where Leo could share his thoughts, his why, welcomed, not punished. Leo, after days of quiet, began to bloom again, his dinosaur rants and curious questions filling the house. At 32, Sarah felt the weight of her choicito challenge David to protect Leo's voice. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but it was honest, grappling with how to nurture a boy in a world that often demands silence. Leo's laughter, once muted, was their guide, proof that trust, though fragile, could mend with care. So, listener, thanks for staying. Sarah and David are finding a path, but the balance of justice and obedience lingers. Would you have pushed like Sarah? Or back David's discipline? When's the time you fought for a child's truth? Share Bellowim here. And if you're raising a kid, remember, trust is their shield, built by listening. Keep listening, life's full of lessons that shape our kids' hearts.